Have you ever wandered through the Arizona desert at night with friends and you may accidentally wander onto someone's property and then a giant spotlight comes on and they threaten to fucking shoot you? Well, I have, and that's the closest to co-op horror I've ever gotten. Co-op horror, or as I like to call it, finding funny in your friend's visceral last moments of life, has quickly become one of my favorite genres to play. I'm talking War Thunder, I'm talking Overwatch, I'm talking For Honor. These games excel at making you scream for help when someone asks if you want to play them. But in reality, games like Lethal Company and Pilgrim have really absorbed my brain space recently with just how fun they are to play. So I wanted to play a lot of co-op horror games so I could see if I could narrow it down to a science on what makes these games good and what makes them really donkey ass. But before we get to that, I think it's a good idea to talk about what co-op horror is. Give it a definition. The co-op horror I'm talking about are the 4-player survivor games. Games where you get 4 little men together and you just throw them right into a hellish pit. And I think that's the biggest element when it comes to any co-op horror game. You need to feel like a little man. They have to make you feel helpless. If I'm running around with a shotgun and I can gun down my foes, I feel like I'm in power. Co-op horror should make me feel the exact opposite of that. The greatest example of this comes from our friend Lethal Company. Every single moment in Lethal Company feels like it can be your last. Doesn't matter what fucking planet you're on at the time. You know at any second some monster's gonna come around the corner and eat you like the tiny bug you are. I think a big factor that plays into that is ambience. Lethal Company ensures you drown in it. The first time you launch the game and get that retro sci-fi look, you know shit ain't right. I challenge you to try to play these games alone. It is goddamn terrifying without even running into anything. The sound design ensures every second feels daunting. Walking outside and hearing the crunching of your footsteps as you make your way to the funny facility is not a fun experience to go through. Pilgrim also does its ambience extraordinarily well. One of the scariest moments I've had from these games was playing Pilgrim, and all it was an empty town. There were no monsters, no scares waiting around the corner to get me. It was just an empty, silent area, and that silence was fucking deafening. This goes to show how well Pilgrim does ambience. The goal of that game is to push a cart from the start of the road to the end of it. Simple enough, right? You come across churches and crypts, merchants and monsters, but the wagon and the goddamn road always remain. The sound of the wheels constantly turning. But ambience is a precious thing, and when you linger on it too much, it starts to become kind of stinky. Games like Demonologist start off strong with the creepy ass abandoned ass house that I actually have in my backyard. But the funny thing about this game is you need to level up to go to different locations. And to level up, you need to pick the right ghost, which is a fucking pain in the ass in its own right. Oh, and you also need to be alive to get XP, and sometimes the ghost will just kill you for shits and giggles. So you end up walking into the same house over and over and over and over again with very little changes. Let me tell you, a baby imp running at me at full speed is only going to scare me so many times. Anyway, cool game design. Very, very fun, very cool game design. Escape the Backrooms also has this problem where the ambience at first is extremely terrifying, but it just falls off so hard. When I was first playing that game and I failed the balancing section and I was away from my friends, it was fucking horrifying. But I was able to find my way back in a reasonable amount of time. The ambience lasted just long enough before things got tedious. Later in the session, we did get to the point where it became just like the real life backrooms, which actually does exist in my backyard. You end up looping over and over, forgetting which way you came from, going through the same hallways over and over again, forgetting which way is left, forgetting which way is right, forgetting which way is up, forgetting which way is down, and then the dumbass hound in the background is going. My point is, ambience is a very delicate thing that can be done very well, or can overstay its welcome in certain parts of these games. But what do these games have to offer gameplay-wise? I think the prime standard of any co-op horror game is Lethal Company, and I'm sorry for saying something so generic, but out of every co-op horror game I tried, this one comes out on top easy. The elements that make this up are proximity chat, which if you don't have, you're already a fucking C-tier game. I mean, come on, man. And fast-paced gameplay. I think every co-op horror game should never stop moving. We're like that fucking baby in that one meme that runs really fast with the Olympians. That's what all co-op horror games should be. You're a baby and you're running for your life. It's all about immersion, and when a co-op horror game really starts to slow down is when I think we start hitting problems. Phasmophobia, Demonologist, and Escape the Backrooms all have this shit-ass problem. For Phasmophobia and Demonologist, the gameplay loop is, okay, we're going in the house, nothing's happening, keep looking guys, something's gonna happen, nothing's happening, okay, but it's gonna happen soon guys, I swear, nothing happening, oh shit, everything's happening and I'm dead. That's the fucking Phasmophobia experience, and fucking It's not fun. It's not fun. These games want to feel slow and want to build tension, but it feels like that slowness never really ramps up enough to make that tension worthwhile. It feels like a sudden climax that comes out of nowhere that just fucking kills you, and that leads to a bad gameplay loop. Compare that to Lethal Company, where there's always movement. You enter the facility with a time limit knowing the ship is going to leave at 12 a.m. So you gotta be quick, but there is still time to dilly-dally. You constantly look for things to pick up, and it isn't long before monsters start to spawn and eat you like the fucking bug you are. That pace to me feels perfect. When shit goes down and it's time to get out, everything plays out like a horror movie. Along with this, death never feels like it's that long compared to something like, say, Phasmophobia, where you die and then it's another 15 minutes of nothing happening right before your eyes. There's no grand escape to watch, it's just boring. Listen, I really tried to like Phasmophobia, but I couldn't. Maybe I just suck at the game, maybe it's just more of a puzzle game and it's not for me, but I just didn't like that game whatsoever, and I'm sorry I'm dogging on it so much. The Backrooms also suffers from this, but it's a Backrooms game, so I don't know if I can really layer on wandering around aimlessly as a criticism. What's the funny point of this video? And the answer to that is there isn't really one. I just want to talk about co-op horror games and how much I enjoy them. But the biggest takeaway I have is I wish more games use proximity chat, because I think it just makes a game more fun. It's so much fun to be with your friends just immersed in the world. I'm talking about the time you didn't see that obvious landmine. I'm talking about the time your friend got his neck snapped right in front of you and now you're all by yourself. That's what makes Lethal Company and co-op horror in general just so good. The people you play with and how the game acts on that. Man, I don't want to hunt ghosts, I just want to see my friends die and piss my little jorts as I try to escape and get out. Anyway, that will do it for me. I hope you enjoyed this shorter video, and I will, see you in the next one.
Subscribe to Classic Ash. Be well.
My grandfather said this mummy is worth millions.